about that.
Okay.
All right. We are live again, starting this beautiful week on the Pan African Daily TV with our guests in studio. As you can see, I hope all of you are doing well and all of you are fine wherever you are today. It is another beautiful start of the week on the Pan African Daily TV. So, yes, after a well heated conversation that we had with Queen Shirei on Saturday, I think we all had to take time off to digest that wonderful conversation with this pretty queen out there. I want to thank all of you for your support, and the conversation was well taken and it's going viral ever since Saturday. So, but of course, that was the end of the week that we just had, having conversations on every possible topic, but focusing on women. But this is a new week. It doesn't mean that we're going to focus only on men. Yes, because I already knew a lot of men that were like, when is the men's week coming up? Of course, we're still going to make a special topic on that and also focus on some critical issues that are affecting us as Black people worldwide, but also asking the opinion of our kings what they think on. Today, we want to talk about media. And like I already posted on my timeline, we have a rundown of this week. Today, our topic is media and the creation of a Pan-African media, as we all have been talking about. And with me in studio, I have two guests. The other one is going to be joining us later, as he's currently on another show right now. But sitting with me here, we have Mr. Stephen Ogongo, who is the editor manager for AfroNews.de, a very renowned online and I think also not just online newspaper that covers the diaspora in the UK, in Germany, in Europe as a whole. Anyway, Stephen is here and he's going to be educating us on what AfroWorld.de does, particularly in Europe, and how we can extend AfroWorld.de even to the diaspora out there in the Caribbean and in the Americas, and how we can also reach out to the continent as a whole. Anyway, I know Stephen for so long now, as he's been one of the media partners that have actually pushed up the International African Festival, Tübingen, and all other events in Europe. So this is one of the what we still call the traditional news on the continent and in the diaspora, reporting on critical issues like immigration, integration, and all racism. Particularly, racism is one of the topics that has always caught the attention of AfroNews.de. As you can see, Mr. Ogongo sitting right here. He is not the mouth type. He is the pen type. You know what I mean? So, like, you see, his sort of media is going to go directly into what I wanted us to share, this double opinion on the creation of a Pan-African media. And Stephen is going to be talking about the traditional media, which we know, the newspaper, the TVs and stuff. But then Mr. Chris Ano, who is the Secretary of Communication and IT Specialist for Amazonian Interim Government, is here with us, and we wanted to actually share his opinion on the social media aspect so that we compare both medias and we begin to look at the advantages and disadvantages on how we're going to create a media that actually unites and provide the kind of contents that unify us Africans than divide us. So I'm very happy to have Stephen with me here in the studio tonight, and we're going to be having this long-term conversation. And I hope Mr. Chris Ano is going to join us anytime from now. But while we're waiting on him, please, I just want to welcome you and say today with us on the panel is Mr. Stephen Ogongo, as you can see. But on the technical, we have Mr. Tumi Tata, who is going to be taking care of our technique today. On the continent, we have Patrick Kasirim, who takes care of all cross-posting on our social media platforms. And behind me, we have Neisha Melkan, who is my private assistant and PA, in programming and everything. So we are happy. But Tumi is going to be assisted by Ia, also, who is always on a standby in case of anything, So that is your perfect team from the Pan African Daily TV on this week starting today. Tomorrow, we want to talk about the topic entertainment, and I'm very happy also Stephen is here. Maybe he could also throw some light on it. Yes, entertainment, and particularly on Grammy Award 2021. I mean, we've seen all around in the media that there are a lot of critics about this Grammy Award 2021. We've had to see, artists, great artists like Buju Bantu, and other artists, actually criticizing the injustice and the foul play in Grammy Award. And now Africans are beginning to question and raise questions. Now, what is even the history behind the Grammy Award? And is it not even time that we start also creating alternative structures that would be fair and also not only touch the upper class, but also really see into the young talent that is coming up? So tomorrow we're going to have this conversation. One guest that we're going to have already that is assigned is Yasin Kiraga. In Canada, he's been dealing with a lot of all these artists and production, and he actually is the one that has been on his Facebook criticizing all this Grammy, and he would tell us a little bit of history and why it is the way it is. But he also would be joined on the studio tomorrow by another guest artist that we're still really looking forward to get her on the show live from South Africa, and we're still trying to reach out to her, and she is one of the famous whom we even thought should have been having an award for long. You all know Yvonne Chaka Chaka. Those are one of the icons that we all know. So I would be really grateful if I can have her on the show tomorrow. We're still trying to negotiate in terms of technique and connectivity. And if that happens tomorrow, thumb ups to us. Yes. And on Thursday, we're going to be touching politics. Politics, why? Because recently we've also seen that the situation in Uganda is not getting any much better. I mean, just recently we heard that Bobby Wine was arrested again just for protesting, right? And so we want to really keep an eye again on the second post-after election on the situation in Uganda, and also start thinking that, yes, why not? A young person can also lead the continent, but we need to also guard him in the right way. If at all there's some critics, we can work them out. So Thursday we're going to be talking about politics, and Friday it's all going to be about health. We want to touch a little bit of COVID, even though it's so sensitive right now. But of course, we just saw that Germany which was already looking positive in terms of opening up. But because of this vaccine, how is it called again? It's so difficult for me to pronounce. AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca. I think all of you have been hearing the story out there. How it can be causing some challenges when potential people take this vaccine. I think it's not more reliable. So Germany particularly has decided to suspend it until they get reliable information. And now we also want to reach out to our people on the continent who are also countries that are actively into the vaccination. Are they aware? How are they taking precautions? What kind of vaccines do we even have available on the continent? So that is what we're going to be talking about on Friday. It might change. It might change. And on Saturday, we're going to have the team of ADDI here. I think we've missed them for a while now. His Excellency Dr. Arikana Shikomoriko and the team is going to be here again on Saturday. Watch out for the topic and the guests that will be joining her. Wow. So thank you so very much. I think I used this short time to just let you connect from wherever you're connecting from and give you this time, and particularly waiting on our second guest to join us. But in the meantime now, we would just go and warm up Mr. Ogongo, who is sitting comfortable there, because here on the Pan African Daily TV is not about, it's about talk. It's about information. It's about education. It's about sharing critical information that our people need to know. Yes. And I think Mr. Chris Ano is there right now, as I can see, is joining us. Hello, Mr. Ano.
Hello, Susan. It's a pleasure joining you.
Good evening. I mean, how long did it take you to get from Amazonia to where you are? Have there been some traffic on the road?
Quite a few months. It's not easy to get to Pan African TV.
Oh, I'm so sorry Sorry about that, but I think so. We are happy to have you here while we were just holding this greetings and announcing the program. We were waiting on you, but I'm happy that you are here. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank all of you for joining and signing in from whichever platforms and whatever time zones you have now. Thank you and welcome to the first edition of this week's show. Now you can see the gentlemen are well seated and well fitted. And like I said, we're going to be talking about the topic media and why the creation of a Pan-African media is of essence to the Africa that we want right now. Now, what are we going to be talking about? Like I said, we're going to talk about the traditional media and also the social media. And what are the difference in this media? How is the content produced? Why even? What is it that we can learn from both the past and the present, and where we're going to in the future on the media landscape? So welcome, gentlemen. I want to start really with Stephen. You've been waiting for a long time. Good evening.
Good evening. Allow me to thank you for inviting me to this wonderful show. It is a real honor to be here tonight. And as I was saying, you deserve special thanks for the good work you are doing to give voice to the voiceless, to bring up what's happening in our communities from all parts of the world. So thank you very much to you and your special hidden team. We are all very proud of what you are doing, and we hope and pray that this platform will grow and become much bigger than it is today.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, thank you so very much. Thank you for that. Like I already told you, Stephen is going to be the one that is more of the writing type. Like you see, he's from afronews.de. Good evening to you, Mr. Chris Ano. Welcome.
Thank you once more, Susan. It's a privilege to be on your show. And thank you, Steve, for also being part of the panel.
Thank you very much, my brother.
Okay. I think just hearing the sound of Mr. Chris Ano, for all of you that have been versed with the conversation on the conflict in the southern Cameroon's Amazonia, this voice is, is remarkable. Chris, what is it that's so special? There's this volume when you speak. It's like in those days when we used to listen to some media voices on the radio. How did you get this kind of a volume and this stamina in your voice as a news and a communication specialist?
maybe broadcasters are born with a voice, isn't it? Because there isn't anything I can say I did to my voice. It's just been my voice, natural voice. In those days when I was mimicking journalism, a mimic voices like Akwanka Joe Ndifo and Phi Henry Fournier and all those guys. Those were my heroes in the media then. But I just grew up with this voice. I don't know what is in the voice. It's only people like you who can tell me what is in the voice.
Actually, it is unique, and I think it's remarkable everywhere because you are one of the superstars on the social media.
Come on, you don't stop flattering me out there. Superstars?
From that point of view, it is very evident that you'll be talking to us more in this social media space and the development and the concept of how trendy it is, how we reach out. Like, I just want to ask you, there were a lot of media, like other conventional medias. Why did you actually choose to come up with the Amazonia Broadcasting Corporation. You could have like, all right, there's CNN will take a story there, there's BBC, there's Al Jazeera. Why did you think that we need the people of Amazonia needed a media?
Well, you know that in a cause like the one that we are pursuing, talking about the restoration of the independence of the Southern Cameroons or Amazonia, when you are fighting a cause such as that one, there are three very important components. Number one, you know, this is a war. You need fighters. Number two, I think media is number two. And the third component is diplomacy. If you have, I would even say propaganda or media should come first, because if you have men fighting on the ground and you have no means of reporting the progress that they are making, it is like you are doing absolutely nothing. If you are making strides in diplomacy and you cannot report that, again, it's like you are doing nothing. So you realize that in all of this, the media comes first. Have you ever asked yourself that? You look at these countries in Africa, not just in Africa, but where they organize coup d'etats and take over from the government. Do you realize that the first thing they targeted are the media, either the radio or the television? Because they understand without the control of the media, the radio, the television, there is no way, because the moment the voice goes out or gets out of that television or that radio set to the masses, the opponent is demoralized. The opponent believes they are no longer in control. They are no longer in charge. And that is just the power of the media, the power of the spoken word. So ABC became very, very necessary for us to be able to pass our message, not just to the ground, but also to the international media, because if we were waiting for the CNNs, if we were waiting for the BBCs, if we were waiting for the Al Jazeeras of the world and so on, we will never have enough coverage that we needed. And so we thought about, why not come up with our own media, which is accessible to us at any moment, 24/7. And so we set up ABC, got it on satellite, is being watched in all of Africa.
Okay. I mean, well said, of course. Stephen, I would just ask you on the other part. Is it the same feeling you have when you're doing your online magazine, the Afronews.de? Stephen?
I think it's frozen.
I think. Stephen, can you hear me? I think he's frozen. Yeah. Wow. All right. While we're waiting, I think there will be some other adjustment coming from his part. Chris, you said something. So in this case, the media is like a weapon.
Absolutely. That's exactly what it is. Not just in our case, but in every cause, political, social, economy-wise, the media is always a weapon.
All right. If you look at the traditional, or we call it the conventional media in the past, and you look at the development of the social media, what is the difference that you can say between these two?
There is much difference there, because the traditional media is like reserved for the elite, whereas the social media is open to everyone. I mean, the traditional media is reserved for the elite in the sense that you have to have money. You have to have money to be on the traditional media, because it's not easy to get a television on satellite where you are paying millions every month. It's the same thing with radio. To have radio, traditional radio running, you need a lot of money to get the signal out on antennas and get it down to the radio sets. Whereas with the social media, you came up here, you and me, we can come up here and just in 2 minutes we are talking to perhaps hundreds, thousands of people without maybe even spending a dime. That is not the case with the traditional media. Another difference is also the reach. There is something in the social media they call Facebook and Twitter, for example. With Facebook is like every Tom and Dick. Twitter, you want your message to get to certain quarters, you have to go to Twitter. You want your message to go to every Tom and Dick, you go to Facebook. So that is the way both the traditional media and the social media kind of split themselves. So the traditional media will never lose its place because it reaches out to a class of people that you can say Twitter does. To those on Twitter, all the executives on Twitter, all the professionals on Twitter, the politicians on Twitter. Unlike in Facebook, where you may not necessarily find the person who is on Twitter being on Facebook. That is a difference between the traditional media and the social media. In the traditional media, you are meeting, I think, a special group because it also takes some good amount of money to have a television set in your home. Whereas social media, all you need is your cell phone. Right.
Absolute. And so you think the inaccessibility of the traditional media actually could have been a disadvantage, particularly to the continent of Africa, because of the resources, and even for people to subscribe and watch it?
I think that is it. Accessibility, not because of the cost involved in enrolling or subscribing to the service, but the cost involved in getting the equipment in your house. I went to Africa, I think that was 2016, and I realized that you go to the rural areas, almost everybody has satellite TV with over 1,000 channels, free. They don't have to pay cable bills that we pay here. You go to the urban areas, city areas, most of them carry cable television. Now, even so, you still have to buy a television set. You still have to buy a decoder. But with the social media, again, who doesn't carry a cell phone, an Android phone nowadays? And all you need to do is put data in there to have access to the social media. The problem, the little disadvantage with the social media, which is why people still cling on to the traditional media, is because back in Africa, with the exception of very few countries, we still do not have enough bandwidth, enough internet bandwidth for people to have access to what is being streamed from the social media. That's how the limitation is. For example, what you are streaming here, broadcasting here, people in Cameroon, in Amazonia, in Nigeria may not be able to, not everybody may not be able to watch it because in their phone, they don't have enough data to even, I send sometimes audios out, and some people tell me they can't even download it. Audio, not even video. They tell me they can't download it because they don't have enough data. Those are the limitations of with the social media in Africa. But I really think African governments owe the African people the responsibility to make sure that internet is available to everybody who can subscribe to an Android phone. This is the age of internet, and there is no way any government nowadays can still deprive our people of this wonderful breakthrough technology that we have in the 21st century.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it is pathetic. I think Stephen has joined us again. Stephen, are you there? Stephen? Okay, Stephen?
Yes, I'm here.
All right. I'm so sorry. What was the challenge you were facing out there?
Hello? Yes,
Hello?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clean and clear. What was the challenge you were facing out there?
Yes.
You still don't get me, Stephen? Okay. Anyway, I hope it's gonna get better. But I just want to refer to what Chris, you were just saying. Like, we're thinking about even the accessibility and the connectivity. Now, because we are in this pandemic, I see the challenge of the social media, particularly where all this congestion, the whole
Hello. Yeah,
news,
can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Stephen, can you hear me? All right. It's unfortunate. But Chris, you can hear me, right?
I can hear you, please.
All right. Yes, I was just like, you see, even the challenge of this kind of connectivity. I mean, Stephen is joining us from Italy.
Yes, I can hear you now.
All right. Okay, that's fine.
Yes, so, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. What was the challenge you're facing out there, or you were facing? All right. So fortunate. I don't know. Yes, I still have to go back to Chris to ask you this. The kind of period that we are in, do you also think that it affects the social media a lot? Like everything is on digital now?
I think anything digital is good for the social media, because if you can access the social media, you are already digital, correct?
Correct.
Right. So I think anything digital is good for the social media, be it content creation or consumption. It is good. It is good. It is good for the social media.
Yeah, but in this case, I was talking about like those that had their TV, we would have recorded this session and then we play it. But now,
yeah, right. However, again, you go back to Africa, not everybody has access to that technology. Mm-hmm. In Europe and the USA, you can program your DVRs to record programs that are on TV. In the case where you are not available to watch them live, you can program your DVR to record those programs. Then you also have on-demand videos on demand. But back in Africa, I think that technology is still very, very limited. Of course, the capability is there, but it is still very, very limited. But I think it's a good development, and it enhances social media, especially when you now talk about YouTube, Vimeo, and all those video on-demand platforms, to the extent that even if you didn't have the opportunity to watch those shows or programs live, you can still go back at any time, in a moment, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years after, and you're able to watch those shows. And I think the digital world has given us a world of archive that will forever remain there, going nowhere. Some people think that when your website is taken off the line, it is all gone. It is never gone. It is never gone. When you own a website and that website is discontinued, I've forgotten that platform. You go there, just go. Even if it was 10 years ago, just there's something called such. I mean, something engine. You go to that website, enter your old domain name. If that website was there, even if it is 10 years ago, you will trace the script of that website. So that is one good thing that the digital world does. It keeps records better than any archive.
Okay, good. Stephen, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Thank you so much, and I'm very sorry for the inconvenience you were having out there. We'll just go straight to you in case we lose you again on the show. You are editor and manager of German Media Limited. What actually, was your reason why you had to come up with such a media?
Yes, well, yeah, this is a media platform mainly targeting migrant communities. We initially started with the publication for Africans, and then we expanded it to include other major immigrant communities. For instance, we have a publication for Romanians, for our people from Poland. We have a publication for our friends and sisters and brothers from the Philippines, and several other communities, Ukrainians as well. So we basically try to facilitate the integration of migrants in the host countries. First of all, by providing them the information they need to fit in their new societies, helping them understand how the society works, its rules, its regulations, and also helping them know their rights and duties as citizens, because when you live in a place, it's important that you get to know your rights and your duties. And an important aspect of our work is to help instill a sense of pride in our people, because we know that normally the mainstream media have a certain way of covering migrants, who in most cases are depicted as the source of problems affecting all the host countries. So what we try to do is to focus on the positive contribution of migrants to their host societies. We help them realize that there are people amongst them who are doing exceptional things. And that's why we really focus on narrating or telling stories of people doing small but important things to help others within the community, and also to help their host countries develop. So in a nutshell, that's what we do. We also collaborate with legal experts who help people, for instance, know how to go about obtaining the documents they require to live in the country, and also helping them know how to defend themselves each time they face any kind of discrimination.
It brings me back to the point where Mr. Anu was talking about, this kind of disseminating information. And I see you report a lot, particularly on refugees coming out from conflict regions on the continent, and even their achievements in Europe, as you say. Now, but there is this issue that we see with the information that is being censored. And I know you had a very huge campaign with Facebook also, not respecting or whatever content they will pull down. Same thing with ABC and stuff like that. Now, how unfair is even the platforms that we're using in terms of media censorship or the kind of message that we want to bring out regarding Africans?
Yeah, I think the main challenge is for Africans and the African media outlets to realize the importance of portraying a positive image of the continent and of our people. Because most often we are our own enemies. We've learned journalism from a system that trained us to despise everything African. So most of the time we have African journalists really just copy pasting what foreign media do. And that is quite harmful to our communities and to our people, because we, in a way, let our people believe that there is nothing good that can come from our continent, from our people. We keep on, promoting the view that the best can only come from abroad, from outside our communities. And that's very, very dangerous, because in a way that facilitates or even encourages people to look outside and to even dream of going abroad. Most of the people who think of going abroad, kind of develop such kind of conviction, because, they only see all the good stuff from abroad, yet they don't see such good stuff from within their communities. I'll tell you a very silly example. Me, for instance, when I was growing up in Kenya, I didn't even know the name of a river that was 2 kilometers away from my home. Yet I knew almost all the rivers in Europe, So in a way, I was being trained to grow up aspiring, to go to Europe, which is very, very dangerous, because we need to train our people to appreciate what we locally have and to do everything possible to develop what we have, because really we are a very rich continent and we have a very rich human resource. We just need to appreciate that and work towards helping our people do whatever they can to develop the local resources.
Thank you so much. I mean, it can be said more than that. If we look at even the impact of taking this power into our hands and be able to create something, like I'm talking in the case of Mr. Anu sitting here, that, I mean, the impact of the situation in Southern Cameroon to the world, if you look at it like the conflict in Sudan, or the conflict even in Mali today, even the conflict in the Biafrans are also coming up with their own. I mean, you can really be proud of coming up with such an initiative, taking it into your hands and defining the narratives according to the perspective, isn't it, Mr. Ano?
Yeah, you are quite right. Many years ago, lots of coups succeeded in Africa, and we nurtured the worst of the world's dictators, sit-tight leaders, fraudulent, corrupt, most corrupt leaders, because of the absence of the kind of media that we have today. With the social media, digital media, the people are holding their leaders accountable. The people have access to a media that those corrupt, fraudulent, sit-tight leaders can no longer control. Then they used to tell you what you have to print in your newspaper. I remember back then, in Cameroon, when we printed newspapers in those days, just think about this. The law was, before you can print a newspaper, you have to design the newspaper. I don't think you had this in Kenya. I don't think you ever had this. Kenya, I guess, was a little better when it comes to censorship. But in Cameroon, then, I'm talking about as early as the early 90s. Before you took a newspaper to the printing press, the law required you to carry the domi, that is the prepared piece, carry the entire domi to the divisional, they call it, in Cameroon, they call it divisional officers. You had to carry the physical copy to the divisional officer's office. Susan knows what I'm talking about. And yes, they will have to look through every printed page. I mean, this is a dummy of a prepared newspaper, which means you really can change anything once it has become the dummy. So they expected it was a law. You had to bring your dummy to the district officer to approve of it. As if you defied their laws, when and printed the newspapers and they found it on the newsstands, they were confiscated. That was how they restricted what went into the newspaper. Then the radios are there. They are listening to the radio. They have to qualify what is news. But the good thing today is, with the advent of the social media, they no longer have control over what goes out, because if they deny it in the newspapers, they can't deny it on the social media, because I will just change my face and write the same story and put it on the social media. People will read it, they get the information, it disseminates, and as many others do the same. It takes away that monopoly of media control from them, and that is where I think Africans can change the narrative. And also, that is where we stop fraud, we stop corruption, we go after seat-tight leaders, we go after those cronies in every African country who sing praises to corrupt and seat-tight leaders, but not only to the African countries, also in the West. You have countries in the West that encourage these same sit-tight, corrupt leaders, and they tell you they are promoting democracy in Africa. They are promoting human rights in Africa. How do you promote democracy and human rights in Africa and you have a single leader ruling for over 30 years? Even 15 years is too much. So that is a good thing about the power of the social media.
Absolutely. Stephen, you just had that. I mean, the censorship of the news. On the other hand, the newspaper, because you're in the conventional newspaper, do you just throw any story out there, or you can just create your own story, even if it doesn't really fit into the context of the reality? Is that allowed?
Well, newspaper business is a very delicate business. But what I believe in is whatever you write, you should always think of what's its contribution to the society. Mm-hmm. So that's the main focus we have. We always ask ourselves, how is what we are writing going to be helpful to our people and to our society? So we make sure whatever we do, even if it's not for a wider audience, because what we know is that normally if you want to reach a wider audience, you have to go for probably what is less important, because we know that serious things don't attract readers. But we really don't care about that. We care about the impact of what we write. So we really try our best to make sure that we provide information that is relevant, that is useful, and that can help somebody improve their way of living. So that's really what we are focused on. We don't care about reaching millions of people, because we can do that and we know how to do that. But that's not a service to our community. It would be a disservice, because we would end up just, of course, entertaining people. But I believe we have a more important role in educating, if I would say, but mostly helping people know what is important and relevant for their daily lives.
Or if you look at the way, like Mr. Crisano is saying, if you look at the way the Western media has been reporting on the continent, particularly the conflict zones and whatever, corruption, bad governance, or whatever, even leadership issues. And when it comes to this kind of, like he said, hard seat leader, the cores that don't want to, leave power, or for whatever reason, do you think the international media has been fair in reporting on these stories the way they otherwise would do if they're talking about exactly the same issue but referring to migrants? Like if they report the situation of the migrants and they talk about their governments, is it the same way when the conflict in this continent arise that this newspaper report about them, or the news?
You see, foreign media serve foreign interests. And as they normally say, you sing, you dance to the tune of the paymaster. Most countries, most Western countries have state media sponsored by public money to portray a certain type of image of the country and their interests. So they'll always cover Africa from that point of view, what they consider is relevant and important for their foreign agenda. So they'll never really cover African conflicts from the point of view of Africans, because that's not their business. That should be the business of African media. So if we can't come up with our own media outlets capable of reporting from our own point of view, then we should simply not expect others to do that for us, because why should they do it? It's not in their interest. When there is war in Cameroon, for instance, their companies are selling weapons there. So why should they cover it in a negative way? It doesn't make sense to them. They can pretend that they are, concerned about human rights, but are they really concerned? Tell me one dictator in Africa that is not funded and protected by the so-called Western powers. So these people are out to defend their interests, and their interests are never in line with the interests of the African people. Another thing is their physical absence from the conflict zones. I know television stations, Western television stations, that have a reporter in Nairobi covering almost a half of the African continent. So you have somebody seated in an office in Nairobi narrating what's happening in Congo, in Cameroon, in Chad. That's how serious they consider these things, because really they're things that don't matter to them. As long as their interests are safeguarded, Africans can kill themselves. That's not their business. So the real challenge here, I would say, is let Africans come up with their own media outlets with proper training for journalists to cover what's happening locally from a local point of view. That's the only way to get out of this trouble. Otherwise, we'll keep on feeding international media with all the stuff that kill, that tarnish the image of our continent and our people, because we simply don't appreciate and don't realize the importance of covering our realities from our own point of view.
All right. Thank you on that point. I also had conversations with a series of journalists from East, West, Central Africa, and these are local content producers for foreign news agencies. And it was appalling, exactly like what you're saying, in a different form. I'm asking this to Mr. Chris Anum. These are Africans, and but they produce content for international media because otherwise they wouldn't have access, right? So, but from the reports I get or from the research, we're still working on them, but more than 60% said the content that they produce and give it out to them is always re-edited before they send it out. What right do this media or these journalists have to actually counteract this kind of attitude? That's some kind of stealing.
Well, I don't see a problem in editing. There is something in the media houses called perspective, even spin to be a little crude. Every media house often have its own opinion, its own spin, its own angle to every news item. Every news is the same like saying every news media has its editorial policy, which is why the BBC will cover a story and give its own perspective or spin to it, and Al Jazeera will carry the same story and you see a different spin to it. It all depends on interest that they have on that particular issue, not the news, but the subject. And that is why they have to edit story, but editing story in itself isn't a bad thing. That's what is always done in any media house. When you edit a story for perspective, that is censoring. When you edit a story for the grammar, it's a whole different thing. So I think it really depends from what angle the stories are edited. Because a bad writer writes a story. I used to have an editor in Nigeria, and we had weekly meetings. I was one of the sub-editors, and we had weekly meetings. And each time, every week, I had to write a lead story, the cover story. I was always scared because you are writing the lead story, you have to sleep in the office. The editor-in-chief sleeps in the office. You write every line, he crosses with his pen. Every line he crosses with his pen. And but I learned a lot. He was doing the right. He was not editing the spin. He was editing the construction. And that is done in every media house. There is nothing wrong with that. But when you are doing it for the spin, it becomes a problem. I don't know how many media houses do that, but it obtains, of course, in the Western media, because everything Western media is out of interest. What does the BBC report in Africa? They report with the interest of the British government. The same thing with the Al Jazeera, the same thing with the CNN, the Fox News of the world, and so on. There is always a spin. That is why even In the USA, you see Fox News and CNN will never see eye to eye because each of those organizations comes with their own spin and perspective, and they have to make sure their stories toe the line.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear you.
Yeah, you can see.
Space of marginalized content, and that's why the African media or stories from Africa are always twisted in that manner. I think it's unfair.
I didn't get you from the beginning of your question. I think you were muted, so I only heard part of it.
Okay. Anyway, another topic that would be very interesting is like the topic of today. Why is it really relevant for us to report our stories from an African perspective to be able to change the narrative and the status quo of every African child worldwide? As we have seen, everything that is negative has to come from there. Of course, I know we also produce our own negativity among ourselves or even from our continent, but we're talking about the global space for landscape media made by Africans for Africans. And that's why the concept of the ABC came out to really kind of like throw light to the situation. Now, can you just tell us a little bit, what is it that you think in the interest of the conflict, in the interest of justice and marginalization, or the interest of even just putting global attention on that conflict in the Cameroons, how much productivity can you say you've achieved?
Yeah, thank you. I think it achieves quite a lot. You will be surprised who is watching ABC. I think it was one afternoon, a friend in Yaoundé speaking with me said to me, do you know that all the major diplomatic offices in Yaoundé, including almost all of La République du Cameroun ministries, secretariats in Yaoundé, they have ABC on their desk. They monitor it 24/7. I also had an interrogation with an FBI agent who came to my house. You know, for some of those things, people make up stories, call the FBI on you, frame you up. So they came to my house to interview me, and I was shocked. He said to me, we have your ABC on our desk. We monitor everything you guys are saying on ABC, especially you, when you come on. I was also told in New York, especially members of the Security Council, they monitor ABC, what ABC is reporting, is saying on a daily basis. That is to tell you, you may be doing this, you never know the impact and who the impact you are putting out there and who is actually watching. I bet you there is a huge impact out there. You never will know it until you begin to see people responding, people doing things. And that is exactly what ABC has done to this Amazonian struggle. And it will continue to do. I think it is a number one tool that we have in our hands to sell our story. And as we have been discussing here, I think you can count how many times BBC, Al Jazeera, CNN, Fox News, I mean, some of them will go for a year without saying a word about what is going on in Cameroon, in spite of the fact that people are killed on at least an average of 3 people are killed in the southern Cameroons on a daily basis. In fact, over 15,000 people have been killed by the French Cameroon military in the southern Cameroons. But you know what? When the world media reports, just as we were talking here about spin and interest, when the world media reports, and even shamefully to all these human rights organizations like Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and so on, they report that 3,000 people have died in the course of the war. From 2 years ago, they began reporting 3,000 people have died, 3,000 people have been killed. Close to 5 years in the war, they still are saying 3,000 people have died, 3,000 people have been killed. Think about that. So that is the problem with the international media. And that is why it is incumbent upon Africa to have its own indigenous media that is not under the control of the fraudsters, the dictators, and the sit-tight leaders out there in Africa, a media that is controlled by the people and for the people.
Wow. I mean, Chris, when you speak, you can feel some anger.
Well, I have to develop that anger because, listen, I would better be back in Amazonia than be in America. Many people don't know my story. I left Cameroon in 1983 for exile to Nigeria, having given a warrant of arrest by the regime in Cameroon as a journalist. They issued a warrant of arrest for me. I was advised by, politicians, you better get out of here. I left Cameroon overnight, went to Nigeria, lived in Nigeria for 5 years as a refugee under UNHCR. I worked in the media in Nigeria. Thank God to the US government, they resettled me to the USA 5 years after. And so when I speak with bitterness, it is because of what some of us have seen, some of us have been through. Just imagine, I cannot go to my own country today. I'm not sure about tomorrow. So, and when you look at Africa, you see almost the same things being replicated in other places. It is painful that in the 21st century, we are still talking about dictatorships. We are still talking about bureaucracies and sit-tight leaders and censorship in Africa. It is very, very shameful, and that is why I get very bitter when I think about it and when I talk about it.
Stephen, it's the same thing, and I can see even from the comments, Windick is saying the same thing. Brother Chris, is happening in Mozambique. El Hadi is saying, hey, the same thing is happening in Israel, in South Sudan, where they are. David Collins is saying, even from Nigeria, he's also a refugee, is the same thing happening. So now the situation is, like you said, we need an African indigenous media. What is the way forward? What is it that we can do much better, Stephen?
Well, I think the most important thing is to unite all the different small media platforms already existing. There are so many. Our biggest weakness as Africans, if I may say, is we hardly appreciate unity. We hardly realize the importance of joining hands, creating a network, working together for a common purpose. Unfortunately, most often we simply duplicate what others have done. I see my brother Chris is doing something. Instead of joining hands with him and supporting him, I try to copy what he's doing, and I do it on a smaller scale, thinking that maybe I can beat him in competition, and then I end up failing, and he also ends up failing because things don't work out. We really need to join hands. If somebody is doing something let's back that person. Let's find a way of even pulling together resources, because you need money to run a media outlet. You need support that normally comes even through advertisement. And another thing I've noticed is our people hardly advertise in our own media outlets. You know, it's like they do everything possible to just make it impossible for you to go on. And that's really sad, because we don't realize that we are killing our own initiatives. So we really need to appreciate working together, pulling resources together, and, you know, even sharing ideas. That's another weakness we have. I've seen it, for instance, when you organize for meetings where important things are to be discussed, our people simply don't show up. But when you organize parties, even without sending out invitations, you have the whole, you know, getting filled to the brim. So we really need to change our mindset and start focusing on what is really important, not for today, because we really need to think of the future generations. What are we preparing for them? What do we want to leave as a legacy? So that's why it's really important to work together, join hands, share ideas, do everything we can to make sure that something big comes from our efforts.
Okay. And Susan, if I may chip in something there. If I may chip in something there.
Go ahead, Chris.
Another reason why it is very, very important for a prosperous African media outlet out there for Africans, you will realize that with the advent of the social media, talking about Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and so on, and WhatsApps of the world, and so on, the kind of censorship that was hitherto a prerogative, a preserve of the African dictators, is now being carried out by the West. And when I say the West, I am referring to China, France, the UK, the USA, Russia to a little extent. But we are really talking about China in this case, the French, these two powers. Now you will go to the social, you go to Facebook, for instance, you say any negativity against China, you are shut down. You say any negativity against the French on Facebook, on Twitter, they will suspend you. I don't know whether my friend Stephen has witnessed something like that, but that is what is going on. You cannot go to Facebook and attempt to say that China is neo-colonizing Africa. You will be shut down instantly. You cannot go on Facebook or Twitter to say the French are the reason for all the troubles in Francophone Africa. The social media will shut you down. And that is the reason why it is very, very important for a media by Africans, for Africans, where nobody will censor you. And I'm sure you heard about African Town Hall. It's a social platform that I created. We're building up slowly. Africa Town Hall is a replica of Facebook, a complete with the same interface. So we think the reason I created Africa Town Hall was after the coronavirus. I saw what happened. You know how Africans were treated in China. They were being kicked out. Nigerians were being kicked out and told that they are the reason, they were the reason for the corona. Whereas the Chinese knew that they themselves were the reason for corona. But you saw the way they treated Africans, walking into their homes over the night and asking them to pack and leave. And you saw the streets of China littered with Africans stranded. But then you go to the social media to talk about it, you were shut down. And I thought, we have to generate something, a platform in which we can freely talk about these African issues without this type of censorship. And so I launched africatownhall.com. We need to do that. We need to create these platforms where Africans can talk African problems and prefer African solutions.
Yep, africatownhall.com. Noted.
Correct.
Yeah, before you even said it, I wanted to ask about the censorship, and actually that would have been my next question. Like, how many times have you been pulled down? Have your pages been unpublished? I mean, even you, Stephen, have you ever had, a point where you report a story about an immigrant or anything, and your pages were suspended, or you?
Well, not really, but what we notice is when you write about certain issues, the reach gets limited.
Correct.
Yeah, it's like the post is not allowed to reach so many people.
Mm-hmm.
That happens, yet surprisingly, posts that promote racism,
Mm-hmm.
posts of politicians who are openly racist and who make very racist statements against Africans and others are never pulled down. Such posts have even a much higher reach than other things. So that really makes you wonder why Facebook and all these other social media are not paying particular attention to such issues. Yet they are more keen on when you write about killings by foreign forces in African countries. I think we need to, as my brother Chris was saying, find a way of creating our own media platforms where we can operate freely without having somebody deciding what should get out there and how many people should see it. Because as long as we depend on what is not ours, we will always be in a way restricted and even be practicing self-censorship, because when you know that writing about certain issues will not allow you to get to a wider audience, just out of frustration, you might as well decide not to do it. And I see so many people just avoiding to talk about certain issues on the social media because they know such issues will never reach wider audiences. So it's important that we find a way of bypassing this system and creating what can work for us. But we must also not forget that we also have very dangerous brains amongst us who might as well end up taking control of such a structure. So we should also think of how do we limit the power of such people when we'll finally get to having such kind of media, because normally these are people who have resources, who can easily find ways of even buying what you've created, or finding other ways of controlling it. So it's think it's a complex debate, but we should seriously think of how to go about it, so that at the end of the day, we'll have something that can work for us from our own point of view.
Good. I think I'll be opening up the lines to take questions and recommendations and also suggestions to our panelists, but also to share this conversation with you. What is it that we Africans should do? First, we know about these platforms. AfricanTownHall.com is one of them. AfroWorld TV. I mean, they're even just coming up now in this segment. But what is the way forward for us to unite? Like you said, of course, because of the geographical boundaries that we even have, and even the way we still are, we're not expecting something that has to grow or just immediately affect itself in the next coming days or even years. We're in the new decade of the African 2021, but we still realize that even most of our mouths have been shut up in every way. You know, they didn't only limit putting their foot on our neck, but they put it even in our mouth. And so whatever things that we say or do, particularly when we are still even parodying on their platforms, be it even the AfroWorld.tv, we still created it over Google and use all these services. Now, what is the way forward? What is it that we can do to actually unite? A media that unites us. How do we produce this content that is more of a unifying content for us to build the Africa that we want? So the lines are open. You can call in and address your concerns or make a comment, or if not, we carry on with the conversation. I'm appreciating these two gentlemen sitting here. It's not easy even to just create a kind of what we call controversial media. Irrespective of what we do, our people should appreciate this kind of input. You're putting your life at a risk on your continent and in the diaspora. Chris Anum.
Yeah, let me get back to the last speaker where you left off. The need for an indigenous African media is quite important, and as you ask, ABC has been shut down again and again. I can't count how many times when I get on live. In one single show, I may have to restart it 3 to 4 times. I mean, within an hour, I may have to restart the show on Facebook 2, 3 to 4 times. ABC is having, I think, about 3 or 4 Facebook pages just to be able to navigate, in between these shutdown. So if tomorrow we are not on this side, we can navigate to the other one, hoping that they don't shut it down there. That is what is going on most of social media. And I don't think this is peculiar to Africa. I think it's just the way the big guys want things done. You ask, how can we begin to change the scenario in Africa? I think my comrade over there, Stephen, said something that is very, very important for the foundation. The African business community needs to begin to form the indigenous media. It is one thing to create a media. It is another thing to create a media that is actually patronized and having an impact on the community, and funds have a lot to play in creating such a successful media. So I will say, number one, the African community, the business community supporting African media. And number two, I think media that is respected has to report news, report events in a very objective way. Now, I don't want to say ABC is objective because you know our mission. We don't claim to be very objective because ours is a revolutionary television. But something like AfricanTownHall.com or any other African platform that seeks to serve the people should be able to operate with information that is dependable, reliable, that people can stop there and say, yes, this thing is for real. That is what it will take also for the business community to sponsor media, African media.
Yeah. I'm just reading very interesting comments here. I think you also are following it. The audience appreciates your concerns and your input and really your work, particularly being on that kind of a media that is actually a revolutionary media. Not only your life is at risk, but even putting up that face out there, like you said, it's really a lot of engagement, and we appreciate every input, irrespective, and particularly the engagement, the passion with which we do these things or put out that face out there. So we're calling actually on our followers, our watchers, please fund the media, be it africatownhall.com or afronews.de or Pan-African Daily TV or any other anything that we need to be able to push the agenda of the one Africa and a united Africa. We still have conflicts, even among us, even among the continent. Where do we start from? How do we? Now, Stephen, you mentioned one thing. He that funds you owns you. There is no way that we'll be able to emerge without funding ourselves. So we need to go depending on some European funding or some foreign funds. How are we even going to, tell our stories when we are funded? So the need to fund this media, how do we do it?
Yes, we have a very rich business community. Africans are very rich people, by the way. Yeah, we just ignore it, but we are very rich. And we just need to invest on what is important. We waste a lot of resources in very useless things. We need to make some sacrifices and become donors. We have to get rid of this mentality that only the Western people can be donors, can finance, can sponsor our activities. Our own people should replace them. Let's become our own sponsors, our own donors. Let's put some of the resources we have at the disposal of people doing simple but important initiatives within our communities. Let's advertise in these media outlets, because that helps sustain the media outlets, and it also enables people working in them to live decent lives while dedicating their full lives to the service of the community. So let's enable them to live decent lives so that they can stay focused on covering everything that's happening in an objective way, because we need that kind of information, which can't be done if we have people who are not capable of living a normal life. And probably this is one of the reasons why most of our people end up writing stories in a certain way, because they have to please somebody. Mm-hmm. Since they don't have a secure way of earning a living, they write in a certain way so that they can cash in on something and forget about it. So I think we can get rid of that by creating a system that is sustainable, helping these people run media outlets in an independent way, but also enabling the people working there to live a normal life. And of course, we also need to invest on training our people to cover our realities in a different way, because the kind of training we've had so far is quite biased.
Mm-hmm.
We need to kind of revise the way we train our journalists so that they can cover our realities from a different point of view.
Mm-hmm. All right. We will take a short break. While we come back, our next topic or the next impression would be, we want each and every one of you to tell us a little bit on your structure and how far, for instance, like the ABC, what is the situation currently now with the conflict in Amazonia? And you, Stephen, you like to tell us about the afronews.de, like in details, where can people do subscribe to it and how can they watch? What is the content that you actually cover? And I heard you were like, you want to reach out to the diaspora, and how can the diaspora connect with you to own branches out there? Same thing for ABC. What is it that the audience should know, particularly about the situation on the ground, and how can the audience follow up with the latest news? Where do you stream each time? How can they connect to the media? And what about the town hall? How can people access this and stuff like that? So after the break, please.
You are watching the Pan-African Daily TV with Dr. Susan Tata. The Africa we want: unity, consciousness, our culture, our spirituality, our history. One Africa for Africans worldwide. Motherland's calling its diaspora home.
Good. Welcome back again. And like I said, on this, we would like to give each and every one of you time to talk about your structures and how you think we can reach out, or the people following us and watching us can subscribe or can follow up your activities. What kind of content do they expect to get? And is there any grounds for reaching out to connect? We are talking about building the Africa we want, and our voices is for one Africa. So a conflict in Southern Cameroon, Amazonia should be the interest of the every other. Today or tomorrow, we'll be talking about the situation in Uganda and the elections. I want to find out from ABC, do you reach out to such content, or you just focus on the ABC on the Southern Cameroons?
Right now, we are not into news reporting because we do not have those resources yet. But as we grow, it is our goal to have a news team that covers the rest of Africa. But for now, we are just focused on the Amazonian struggle. We look forward to setting up. In fact, we're actually working on our news team, news unit right now. We're hoping that in the coming months, that team should be ready. Once that is all set, then we should be ready to cover things like maybe elections and corruption in Africa. We are, again, very much focused on what is going on in Amazonia, and I know you wanted to know how effective that has been with ABC. Of course, we just cannot underrate the power of ABC in Amazonia and in La République du Cameroon too. When we started here, I was explaining to you the places where they watch ABC. I have learned that on the ground, you go to some rural areas, you will find about 50 people, 20 people come gather together just to watch ABC. You know, Africans, our people like to hear what is authentic, not what has been sugar-coated and censored, edited. They like to hear the raw facts as they are. And that is what is important in independent media. Media that is not censored by any authority, by any powers. Just imagine if La République du Cameroon had the powers to censor ABC. Just imagine what they will do, but they are not able to do. They are not able to do so, and so the people know that is where they go, and they can get a real story of what is going on in this war, and people cling onto it on a daily basis. Both at home and in the diaspora, it has been very, very successful. We have built an app for ABC that is now available, at least for those with Android phones. They can, you don't have to have TV to watch ABC. You can watch it on an app 24/7. We are also streaming. Each time we are live, we're streaming simultaneously on Facebook and on YouTube. I think it has left a huge impact. Without it, I doubt where our struggle will be today. It has left a great impact on what we do.
Mm-hmm. I'm just reading a comment here. I think you also have seen it from Brother David, who said, I just checked the YouTube channels of Brother Chris and Brother Stephen. They don't have much content on their channels. Is there any reason for it that you suspended or anything? Or in future, do you intend to drop more content out there? Like them in the diaspora, I think that's one of the mediums where they really actually connect, or to support any causes. Is there anything?
Maybe the viewer is looking at a different page. Maybe we have,
okay,
a whole lot of stock of videos are broadcast in particular on our website, ABC Amber TV, YouTube.
All right.
My own personal YouTube page has a ton. Because my page was launched before that of ABC. It's a ton. Probably hundreds of video footages there of myself and some ABC programming. We also have our Facebook platforms. No, I think you may be looking at the wrong page. I think so. We have quite a lot.
What will be the page? Let's just,
For YouTube, it's ABC Amber TV. Again, with tons of videos there. So I don't think that person is looking at the right page.
They're blocking us now.
My page alone has close to, if not over 12,000 subscribers.
Okay. All right. I think they just wrote it down here. And Stephen, did you read this comment from Brother Kofi Nzuma, who is asking, you look so fresh as if you have many wives?
No, I hadn't seen that. Well, that's actually a compliment to our women. It shows that
he said,
good care
he
of
was
us.
even referring to Johnny Boy, who is also one of our regular followers. He said, Johnny Boy, I think Brother Stephen Ogongo has more than 3 wives. Anyway, but I think the point Kofi is driving to, he also mentioned it in another comment here, that we need to see more content about Africans marrying Africans on the continent and in the diaspora. Does afronews.de cover topics like that? I think Kofi is looking for a while.
Africans marrying Africans.
Yes. Intermarriage between continental Africans and diaspora.
Oh, okay, I get that. Who can really control that?
Sorry?
Who can really control that? Can anybody control? It's a thing of choice, right? You live in America, maybe you choose an American wife. You live in Kenya, maybe you choose a Kenyan wife. I think that's the way it goes.
Yeah, he's talking about a platform, because Afro News reports content. And so he's asking whether in Afro News, do we have content like that, where you can find your bride in the news?
Maybe Comrade Stephen should answer that question.
Yes,
I'm sorry. Is it the Afro News or Afro News?
Afronews.de.
Afro News.
Okay.
Yeah.
Afronews.de. Yes, our website is an open platform where we welcome contributions from people from all parts of Africa and all parts of Europe and elsewhere. It's open. We appreciate contributions from people who are willing to share their views, to tell what's happening in their local areas, and to even, narrate what they are doing. Nothing is too small to be featured on afronews.de, because we believe in letting people tell their own story. In fact, we cover what traditional media would, easily ignore. Things like marriage ceremonies. If we know people are having a wedding ceremony and we are invited, we normally make sure we cover such stories, because those are important moments for our communities. When a child is born and the family is happy to proudly celebrate that with the community, we feature that. When one of us starts up a new business, and he or she needs support in getting the information out there, we give them that space to narrate what they are doing and what they plan to do, and even appeal for help. So we really try to make it an open space where anyone can come in and tell their own story. And even if they don't know how to do it, we are there to, to listen and help get the story in a way that would be of help to them and also to their image and to our image as a community. So anyone out there willing to, contribute stories, or even just, whatever you feel you'd like to share with the world, know that you'll find room in all our media platforms.
Okay. Chris, I will just come back because I think this question was, I'm very certain you're married, because the question of looking for a bit of an intercontinental bride, Chris, is sort of like caught you somehow, like. So, but I want to put it in this way: the africatownhall.com, and like you said, it's a platform. Now, it's a platform just also for the revolution, or it's a platform where you say no, people can do other things there. Like, for instance, if somebody like Kofi, who is looking for a wife and would want to marry an Amazonian wife, and there's no way to get access at those services, what is it that one can find on africatownhall.com?
First of all, I am married. I'm very happily married. And my daughter is 23 years old.
Oh.
And is doing a master's degree at the moment. So I'm out of the market. But for Africa Town Hall, I will put it this way. When you think of African Town Hall, think of Facebook. That's all that it is. When you think of Africa Town Hall, just think of Facebook. It is for everything. I mean, people can come in, do their own things. Just like in Facebook, you can create your page and put up your own stuff. You can sell stuff. You can do anything, just again, as on Facebook, create groups, whatever you can imagine. That is what Africa Town Hall is all about. But I really created it with the idea of Africans coming there and being able to share, especially their political views, without the ability of China to shut you down, ability of the French to shut you down. You should be able to say anything, post anything that you want. The only thing that we are still working on African Town Hall is the ability to do live videos, but we will get there. But for now, people can post videos, can post pictures, can post anything, create pages, and as many as you want, create groups as many as you want, and you can do that. We're looking forward to growing and adding more features to it, but for the moment, that is it. And yes, you can find a wife or find a husband there. Who knows?
Okay. Kofi, that's noted. I think, yes, we, so don't believe, yes. So, I mean, that's what happened on when we are having our own media platforms, particularly Pan-African media platforms. It's not just about that kind of conservative media where people come and it's just being static. I mean, we talk, we laugh, we share. So I can also imagine that the africatownhall.com is a social platform where, it's fun, it's interactive, it's proactive, just like afronews.de, where you want to share something, content, or you want to produce something on your own. Now, I think I would like to have one last question go around. All this engagement is not without challenges, isn't it? Be it personal, be it overall, the work that you engage to do. They say you either would attract friends, or you create enemies, or attract enemies, or you even create some. Stephen, what is the challenge that you actually face in your work as a media person? I mean, you write uncomfortable things. It's just not every comfortable thing that you will write there.
Yeah,
Even
well,
from your African community, let's forget about even the European. We're talking among us.
Yes, I think our community is in a way not yet mature enough to accept criticism, because at times we behave badly, and that makes our host community hate us. So I've noticed that whenever we point out the wrong things that we do, people think that we are siding with the other side, but we do this for their own good, because when you live in a place, it's important to respect the rules. You can't be making noise when people are supposed to be asleep, and just expect them to tolerate that. So these are the moments when I think I've had problems with our community. They don't really appreciate when you point out the wrong things they do. So I think that's an area we need to improve on, because it's important that we realize where we are going wrong, so that we can avoid those issues and live in harmony with all the people within our environment.
Okay. Yeah. So in the process of, particularly in the process of a revolution, Chris, I don't think your work has just been the way you put it lightly. It also has a lot of feedback and challenges. What are some of the experiences, and what is the way forward?
Well, when you sit on TV and you are looking handsome as I do, everybody thinks TV is very easy and very good, right? The funny thing is, people see you on TV, or you are that popular person out there, and the thing is, it must be really easy. Must be really easy for this person. That is the mentality out there, not just in Africa, but I think everywhere, especially in the media world. But it is not so. It is not so. I don't think in most media, not just in Africa, it is tough to make money in the media. Media people are not some of the richest in the world, except maybe the Murdochs of the world, of the Murdochs of Fox News, with a media empire across the world. I mean, look at somebody alone. He has a Wall Street Journal. He has Sky News. He has Fox News. He has, the New York Post and all that. I don't know how many they are in London. but owned by one person, one family. Yeah, those are rich people, and I guess the people working under them, they're probably making some good chunks of money. But for most of us in Africa, maybe Asia, maybe the Caribbean, the media isn't for rich people. We just do it out of the passion, the passion. Personally, this has been in my blood forever. I will surprise you. My first journalistic work got into the newspaper while I was a Form 4 student, in the secondary school. Susan, you know, the Cameroon Tribune. Mm-hmm. Cameroon Tribune in those days was a weekly news publication. And of course, it was meant for professionals. But I used to love writing and reading. While I was in school from Form 1 all the way to high school, I loved writing and reading. And so one day there was a strike in my school, and the boarding students went about destroying stuff around the school because of what the principal did. And I came to the school. My friends told me what happened in the school. I wrote the story, mailed it by post office to Yaoundé, to Cameroon Tribune. And about 3 weeks after, I was sitting in the classroom and the principal sent for me. And it's an interesting story. And I'm sitting in the classroom, and the discipline master comes for me and stood at the door and said, "Is Adu Christopher in this class?" And I said, "Of course, I was there." And I said, "Yes, sir." He said, "Follow me." I followed him to the principal's office. And by the time I stepped my legs into the principal's office, canes landed on my shoulders. I didn't know what crime I committed. I didn't know so I glanced through his table, and behold, Cameroon Tribune was lying wide open on his table. And then I saw pictures. I said, "Oh, they published that story." So that was my first piece of writing published in the newspaper as a Form 4 student. But I'm saying that to say that we do these things out of the passion for that profession, not because there is money in there. There are lots and lots of money challenges in the media, the African media in particular. And I'm sure that Steve knows what I'm talking about. Susan, you know what I'm talking about. Just to get money to start, it isn't easy. It isn't easy. That is the number one challenge with the African media. And I really hope that African entrepreneurs and business managers will begin to patronize African media, especially the new media. These kind of things we are talking about. We should not have Facebook, Twitter, YouTube domineering. Let us have platforms, African platforms that talk Africa, that is produced by Africans, platforms that have no control by these economic interests, talking about the Chinese, the Russians, the Americans, the Germans, the UK, and so on. Media for Africa. It will take a lot of money for that to be done. And the last thing I would say, as far as this is concerned, I think Steve has said it already. It is the courage to do the right thing. Say what is right in spite of the names you are called, in spite of the criticism. That's one thing I believe in. You know, I live in the US for about maybe 23 or 24 years now. I learned from two people in the media. And I know some people say this guy is too strict, is too stingy. I learned from two people. There's a guy called Bill O'Reilly. Bill O'Reilly. I love that guy. For those of you watching me from the US, you call it what it is. Rush Limbaugh. He died about a week ago. This is the number one guy on American radio. I mean, I would say world radio with an audience base of 20 million in a week. 20 million on 600 radio stations. I learned from being bold and saying it as it is from those people. And I think that is the kind of media that we need for Africa. When we begin to have such media, corruption will reduce. Dictators will find nowhere to hide. We will no longer have sit-tight leaders like the Musevenis, the Paul Bias, the guy in Rwanda who is like a benevolent despot, and so on. Nigeria is trying to set a little example now. That is good. But we don't need that anymore in Africa, and we need media that is strict and frank to do that.
Okay. I heard. Yes. I think there've been some questions, and people are saying we should pay attention in the questions. If there are any questions, you can also call and ask. If there are relevant questions that we need to know here, please make sure we get that opinion going. But in any case, we are 10 minutes into the show, and so if you still have questions out there, you can put, apart from some of these very easy questions I read here, like, a question for you, Brother Chris. Are you a pastor?
Yes, of course. I'm a pastor, and let me give you a little background to that. I've been pastoring for quite a while. I pastored in Nigeria while doing journalism. I pastored here in the U.S. for over, I think, about 16 years in the state of New Hampshire. Then I moved to Houston, Texas. I didn't go into it actively because of this struggle we are into. But of course, once a pastor, always a pastor. It's about your faith in God and doing the godly thing.
Okay. And I also saw the other comment here on I have an amazing audience. This is one thing I like to share with you. My audience is an amazing one. It's not like they're not following the conversation, but that's exactly what the Pan-African media looks like. You know, like it's a conversation that we're having, and it is like that. Like you have comments that saying, hey, Stephen looks very rich. I don't know why they would say so, because we're talking about funding. And
I think the case of Stephen is probably different. You know, the one the few rich guys in the African media. Maybe Stephen, we need to share. We need to talk after this.
Yes, I must admit I'm very rich, extremely rich. I'm rich in family. I'm rich in the number of beautiful friends I have. I'm very rich in the network of people I collaborate with, and I'm very rich in the number of children I have, not biological children. Of course, I have two beautiful daughters. But in the number of people I've been privileged to help through my writing. I'll just share with you one of the most touching stories in my life as a journalist. 10 years ago, I wrote a very simple article on our girls who are forced into street life. Was telling the story of one of them who managed to get out of that situation and created an organization helping other ladies in a similar situation. And, you know, we journalists, at times we write without thinking of the impact of what we write. So I wrote this story and just put a number. If you are in this condition, please call this number, and, you know, you might find somebody who will listen and help you out. So, you know, it was as simple. Some of those stories you write to fill space. you can't believe it, almost 500 girls called that number, and they were helped out of these people who forced them into slavery. And I didn't know that. So a few years later, I meet the lady. I wrote her story, and she tells me, that's a day after you published that story, my phone rang continuously, and today I can proudly confirm that 500 girls were freed from that kind of slavery. I said, God, today I can confirm I have 500 daughters. So that's what I consider as my wealth as a person. The people, we touch their lives through what we do. So yes, I'm very rich, and I'm very proud to be rich, to be a rich father of all these children. Yes.
Absolutely. Now you heard that. And they also was this, if you are a counselor, I don't know what Lawrence is writing from the Dominican Republic, and is asking, are you a counselor? Can one reach out? How?
Well, I'm not officially. In the past, I was. I did some training on counseling, but I never really got into doing it at a professional level. But of course, people who reach me with whatever they are going through and feel like talking to somebody, they'll always find a listening ear. I may not be a professional to guide them through what they are going through, but if they just need somebody to talk to, and somebody who can listen to what they have to say, they can just feel free to contact me. And I'd like to state that whoever calls me for that reason will be talking to me as a person, not to me as a journalist. Yeah.
Wow.
So there will be confidentiality in whatever I'm told when somebody calls for that purpose.
Okay, good. Yeah, I think we are almost at the end of the show. Thank you so very much for your contribution and your comments, your audience, not just watching from this platform. We have other social media platforms and different Facebook platforms, like our brother Chris already said. We know these challenges, and so we're streaming to multiple platforms out there. And all the comments on the viewers, thumb ups, but on the other one, I just have one remark that people like, brother Chris, so you like the Mzungus. You know what Mzungu is, brother
No.
Chris? No.
So,
So,
Mzungu?
because I think, I don't know, you mentioned a journalist or a radio, and they say, but he was more like a racist and stuff like that. Anyway, those are comments that we received from the audience as a feedback, not anything personal or anything, like I said, we are that kind of an audience. We hold conversations just like we would do at home, sitting at the table or at the fireplace in the village, and talk about our challenges. And be aware that the media that we're talking about and that we need our platforms is not to sell our dirty linings in the public, but exactly what we've been saying here and doing here. We look for solutions to our very challenges from ourselves, by ourselves, to ourselves. So be it promoting our businesses, our services. We all understand that we would disagree, or we would, but we are not here for personal to person. We are here for person to person, but in the interest of one another. So I want to thank you for finding time out, sitting here with us, sharing these warm conversations, laughter, the joy, irrespective of our challenges globally as African people, and even the causes that we serve on. I just pray that for whatever reason that our ancestors continue to guide us, give us the wisdom, and even protection, to do just the right thing, like Stephen said, like you said, Chris, for the benefit of our people. But we all know that each and every one of us have our journey on earth. And if this was, and this has been, our path on earth, so we all are on this journey together. And I look forward that we support one another, we engage one another, we build one another up, that we bring the boundaries of whatever, geography, spirituality, or whatever that is tearing us apart, that we build ourselves as a community, as a one people, one Africa, one continent, one currency, one spirituality, one everything is the Africa that we want and we're advocating for. Long live peace. We just want peace for Amazonia. We want peace on the continent in Uganda. We want peace in Mali. We want peace in Ethiopia. We want peace on the continent. But we all know that peace without justice, or peace, is even the most expensive product when it comes to, security, when it comes to human lives. I think they even value in the West, they value things that are not even up to that as compared to African or Black lives. So we are praying that whatever situation we are engaging in whatever way we contribute, on the Pan-African Daily TV, we showcase these stories and people that are actually putting it out there. We're not here to look at, oh, Susan did not do this today. We're just seeing the big picture of what we do as a collective Black people, doing it by themselves and for our continent and for our race and for our people, and of course for ourselves. So I really want to thank all of you for finding time, sharing your heart and content, and pouring your work out there. We wish you success in everything that you do. And I just wish, Chris, that the war in our country and a conflict in our zone would come to an end as soon as possible. And we would meet on this platform to talk about something else. Maybe your town hall project would be what we want to hear more, or even the pro-independence and all the celebrations is what we wish. We're looking forward for a peaceful Africa and peace for all Africans worldwide. So I would like to give you one more chance to address your audience, your feedback, thanks, and also how we can reach you. I'll start by Chris, and then I'll end with Stephen.
Thank you, Suzanne, for the opportunity. You do a great job here. Keep it on, and you will get there. You will get there. I just want to appeal to everybody out there, Africans in particular out there, to stand with Ambazonia, the Southern Cameroons. They are going through something that most Africans have gone through in the 60s. It's unfortunate that in the 21st century, we are going through this. We can do it with the support of every African out there. We're not trying to separate from Cameroon. We've never been part of Cameroon, though we may have lived together. It doesn't mean we were together. So what we are doing is something that I really appeal to every African. Go and read about the history of the Cameroons, and you will find out that we are trying to take back just what belongs to us. It is not a revolt, not a revolution. We no longer call it a revolution. We started this in 2017 and 16. Then it was a revolution because we were not asking for Ambazonia. We were asking for a state with equity. They denied it, and we thought, well, this thing never existed before. It's like in Jomba marriage, as I call it. So we really like to appeal to every African out there. Please stand with the people of Ambazonia, the Southern Cameroons, whatever way that you can. We will appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Steve?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Susan. It has been a real pleasure being here this evening and learning. I always believe in learning from every person I'm blessed to meet. And I can assure you that I've learned so much during our conversation today. My appeal to our fellow Africans is to open wide our eyes to the sufferings of our fellow brothers and sisters. Let's speak up and make noise against injustice, against oppression, against corruption, against all misdeeds in the society. And let's give full support to our brothers and sisters fighting against all forms of oppression in all parts of the continent. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much. And yes, we have come to the end of this beautiful education. I mean, they call us the Pan-African Daily TV Institute for Learning. I mean, we're not just a media. We're not even a media anyway. But we gather here every evening, Tuesdays to Saturday, 8 p.m. Europe, 2 p.m. in America, 3 p.m. in the Caribbean, and on the continent, respective times, to just share our conversations about challenges that are affecting us as African people worldwide. Because we all know that a problem for one African is the same problem affecting all of us. So there's no rich African, there's no peaceful African, there is no safe African, there is no united African. So the image of a broken African affects all of us, even our generations to come. Like they said, the third world status is a trademark for a Black person. So it doesn't matter if you're a president on the continent and you happen to find yourself in Europe, wherever you may be, there's nothing that is going to identify you as a president. You're just a Black man, just another Black man. So we call on this collectiveness. Our identity is what empowers us and makes us unique. So a problem, where else is a problem? A problem even among us is our own problem. Because even if a fool has a story, and that's why we give our voices to all Africans worldwide, irrespective of your status, irrespective of your country of origin, irrespective of your gender. We're all here for a collective interest of a Black person, and we refer to ourselves as Africans from motherland, be you a descendant of the slave or a continental colonized Africa. We all have one common issues that affect us as a people and a race. So I want to thank all of you and all my audience. Yes, and for particularly those in the comments and the chat, I want to appreciate you. You've been very, very honest as usual, and your point and your critical thinking and perspective, you have not withheld any comment. Yes, so I also want to appreciate all of you that are asking questions on all this. I'll be posting more about them or sharing their content in the coming days. And I want to say good night to our guests there. Yes, we see ourselves some other time. Bye-bye, Chris. Bye-bye,
Thank you.
Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, good. And who are we having here on the Pan-African Daily TV? I can see all of you out there. I hope you had enjoyed the conversation with our guest tonight. I know some of you, and I read a comment that was very, very interesting to me, like, Susan, make sure you know our opinion before we have guests or what? I don't really know. And so, yes, if you would want to get a particular topic on the Pan-African Daily TV, you know where to reach us. You can drop us a comment at our WhatsApp group. And if you have also issues that you know that we've not been talking of late on, or particular guest speakers, as you can know, as you have seen, they've been serving us a long time. They've been giving us a lot of lectures. But tomorrow we want to touch another topic that we have never touched here. It's the entertainment industry. And tomorrow we want to talk about the issue of the Grammy Award 2021. Like I said before, a lot of entertainers or artists are really like, this is unfair. Isn't it time that Pan-African or the media and the entertainment industry in Africa begins to look for alternatives that actually serve the young talent and even the no names, so the upcoming talent? Why must it only be I mean, like a Beyonce award, how many Grammys, you know, and they have to give two to Nigeria. I mean, I read all these comments. I think the entertainment, particularly the music industry, is what we've not been having conversations here. And I've been having a lot of feedbacks from our viewers out there saying, but what about entertainment? What about musicians? What about copyright? What about this? So the Grammy Award 2021, we're going to hear a little bit of stories about it and why people think that it was unfair, that I mean, an artist or a song like Jerusalem. Who doesn't know about Jerusalem? A song that hit more than 300 million, and it's still even the song. How come they didn't get an award? I mean, a song that got a challenge that was performed everywhere, even in the pandemic, and how come they didn't get an award? So a lot of people are raising questions. We saw the video from Buju Bantu and saying that reggae, and even Sean Paul also made an open critique about it, that reggae was also sidelined. Why is it that, you know, some particular music genre don't come on those platforms? So yes, these are topics that we want to talk about that tomorrow, and just visit the world of entertainment and know what is going on, and start also thinking, isn't it also time for us to create alternative awards or Grammys or whatever it might call for the young people and for the less privileged, particularly for the less privileged, for people otherwise who are so talented but would never get into this kind of, I don't know, high-end business people. And a lot of people say it's not even about talent. Have you seen talent on the continent, in the street? Wow, visit Africa, visit our neighborhoods, even in the diaspora, you see what talent is all about. So why not? We can start also creating alternative awards and push them forward and recognize this kind of talent from our African people or African young talent. And Thursday, we're going to be talking about politics. I already said it. We want to visit the situation again in Uganda and find out, why was Bobi Wine arrested again? What is the way forward? How can we nurture this young talent and the post-elections on it? We want to talk also about health. We've been hearing disturbing news about His Excellency John Pombe Magufuli. How is the situation out there? And also these contradictions with this vaccine. How is it called? Germany just stopped it at AstraZeneca. AstraZeneca vaccines is what we're hearing, that complications are coming out worldwide on it. Germany just stopped its own, and we want to find out what is the situation on the continent. Are they still in this? Are they still using these vaccines? As we know that a lot of vaccines have been existing on the continent. So we just want to know what is the situation, and also to reach out to our people out there. If they haven't already heard it, we want to show that vaccine, describe it out there. It is not used in Germany. It has been suspended, and we also want to put out this very useful information out there to our people on the continent and elsewhere. Yes. And on Saturday, as usual, we're going to have the team from ADDI under the leadership of Her Excellency Ambassador Dr. Arikana here on Saturday live with us. So yes, we look forward to a beautiful, vibrant week. And I also look forward to your support. Yes, bring us the content, bring us the lectures, bring us also the fundings to keep our programs running. So thank you. We see ourselves tomorrow. Good night from our end. And yes, stay healthy and stay safe out there. Bye-bye.